time free on all platforms.
"19 children lost at the hands of horror. 2 teachers whose lives were also cut short. 21 families faced with the long journey of grief. The violence unfolding inside an elementary school. This nightmare, a consuming reality for Uvalde, Texas.
She was very happy and very outgoing. Loved to dance and sing and play sports. She was big into family, enjoyed being with the family.
We are now seeing some of the faces of the victims as we learn their stories. A 10-year-old who celebrated her birthday just 2 weeks ago. A pair of cousins in the same class. A girl whose grandfather waited all day and all night for answers.
What's been the hardest part today, Mr. Cruz?
Well, not knowing whether my granddaughter is alive or not.
Chilling new details emerge about the alleged teen shooter. The Facebook messages he sent just minutes before unleashing terror. Classmates discuss his disturbing behavior. His grandfather spoke to our Matt Gutman.
Did you know that he bought those weapons?
No.
Lawmakers already at odds about how to respond. Millions of Americans calling on them to do something. An outburst from Beto O'Rourke during a press conference. The Democratic gubernatorial candidate telling Governor Greg Abbott, "This is on you."
Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sit down. You're out of line and an embarrassment. Hey, sit down and don't play this.
Tonight, team coverage of this tragedy that sent a community and country into mourning. And what happens next in the wake of the second deadliest school shooting our nation has ever witnessed. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. Tonight, we are in Uvalde, Texas, where Tuesday morning, innocent children woke up heading to the school behind me to learn. Some made it out through windows. They were the lucky ones. Tonight, we will not forget those who did not make it out, who they were, who they could have been, as a grief-stricken nation looks for answers yet again. The gunman stormed into Robb Elementary, barricading himself inside a 4th grade classroom and then opening fire. Tonight, at least 19 children are dead, as well as 2 teachers. At least 17 others are in the hospital in the second deadliest school shooting in American history. And the waiting game. No parent should have to go through the agony as they hope and pray their child is still alive. Tonight, we are learning troubling new details about the gunman who turned 18 last week and within days of his birthday bought 2 AR-style rifles and sent 3 private messages on Facebook signaling his plans. This comes as we are getting a look at the faces, the lives cut short, the 19 children and the 2 heroic teachers who died trying to save their lives. We have a lot to get to tonight, including the missed signals. Could anyone have stopped the gunman? And the powerful and emotional debate about what can be done to stop this from happening again. We begin with the latest on the investigation, the lives lost, and the heated confrontation today by a country now looking for a path forward. The heartbreak is palpable.
You really don't get over this stuff. You don't get through it. I mean, you just continue to live with it on a day-to-day basis.
These kids will never attend school again. To say the least, Uvalde has been shaken to its core. Families are broken apart. Hearts are forever shattered.
At least 19 children and 2 teachers killed, 17 more injured. The second deadliest shooting in this country's history. Officials say the rampage began when the suspected shooter, identified as 18-year-old Salvador Rolando Ramos, shot his grandmother in their home. She called police as her grandson left and headed to Robb Elementary School. The suspect crashed his car outside the school, where he pulled out an AR-15 and began firing at law enforcement. At 11:32 a.m. Central Time, he then abandoned his car and entered the school. Within seconds, he opened fire inside a 4th grade classroom.
When he sees the students and our teacher, that's when he starts shooting at the window and the wall right there. So he starts shooting it all up.
4th grader Jordan Legis was inside a classroom he says was being shot at.
all kinds of smoke is like in the room as we're in there, and so we all get kind of by the door, we all get down, and then a few seconds later, I guess he got inside somehow, and then he starts shooting at our door.
Police who arrived at the scene exchanged gunfire with the shooter. A Border Patrol officer then fired the fatal shot that killed him. Jordan was able to make it out safely through a window, part of a group of students who rushed to a nearby funeral home to take shelter.
When we ran to the funeral home, that's when I realized that he could have shot and killed, which he did, but he that could have been me. I could have got shot too. But then that's when I finally realized, that's when I started crying when we were inside the funeral home.
For parents, an excruciating waiting game. Painstaking hours filled with anguish. Mothers and fathers rushing to the school, overcome with emotion as they hold each other back, desperate for answers, waiting to learn the fate of their children. Similar scenes at the Reunification Center. Parents asked to give DNA samples to help authorities try to identify their children. 19 innocent children woke up Tuesday morning with their whole lives ahead of them, all taken away in seconds.
My heart was broken today. We're a small community, and we'll need your prayers to get us through this.
Tonight, our first look at the lives lost, their faces a searing reminder of the extent of the heartbreak. Javier James Lopez, Amiri Jo Garza, her father tells ABC News, please don't take a second for granted. Hug your family. Tell them you love them. Rogelio Torres, cousins Jase Luvanos and Jayla Silguero. The family calls them baby angels and full of life. Eliana Cruz Torres, cousins Annabelle Rodriguez and Jackie Cazares, and the brave, heroic teachers who died trying to protect their little ones. Eva Mireles and her co-teacher, Irma Garcia. The pair had known each other since 8th grade. Garcia was about to celebrate her 25th wedding anniversary. Eva is being praised as a selfless, dedicated public servant.
With Eva, it was just beyond. It was more than anybody else has ever poured into my child. And I've just never seen anyone quite so dedicated. This is not normal. And communities shouldn't have to deal with this, and children in school should not have to.
Today, as this community and our entire nation struggle with the appropriate response, so many are now calling on, demanding those in power to do more. An extraordinary scene at this news conference today with state officials where candidate for governor Beto O'Rourke confronts Texas Governor Greg Abbott, saying he had the power to prevent this tragedy.
Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium.
Beto then taking his message outside.
The people of Texas are with us. The majority of the people of Texas are with us, but we've got to stand up to this. We could have stopped this if we had stood up after Santa Fe High School, if we had stood up after El Paso. We are going to stop the next one. We're standing up right here in Uvalde, Texas, right now.
Tonight, along with this memorial that's growing in Uvalde, so too is outrage. The love shared by everyone here, from the first responders who risked their lives to the neighbors supporting one another over the past day, certainly has fallen short. Not enough to help this community understand why such a catastrophe would happen. And as our Maria Villarreal reports, they want and need, they are demanding answers.
Tonight, as the tight-knit town of Uvalde mourns and grieves, we're learning that for many of the responding officers, this was personal. Many have their own children in harm's way. The sheriff's department.
One deputy sheriff lost a daughter in that school.
And Border Patrol.
We had one agent that lost his granddaughter. We had others that lost extended family.
Border Patrol Sector Chief Jason Owens telling me more than 80 agents responded to the scene.
They put themselves between this crazy person and these innocent children. Whether they were pulling the children to safety from windows, whether they were clearing rooms, whether they were actively engaging that suspect, each and every person played their role, and they did it with all of their heart.
Families taken to the local civic center, giving samples of their DNA, waiting for hours for officials to confirm whether or not their child had died. A long and painful process in a small town where there's less than 10 physicians available to deal with this kind of tragedy.
Maria Villarreal joins us now. And Maria, you've been here since yesterday talking to families and members of the community. What's the latest information on some of those injured?
So the good news is we're standing right outside the local hospital, and all the patients here have officially been treated and released. There was about 6 patients that were sent to the San Antonio area with some very serious injuries. But as of right now, last we checked, only 1 is in serious condition. So, Lindsay, a bit of good news tonight, but still a lot of parents with a lot of questions. I've continued to get text messages from them asking me if I have any new information. They're just desperate to find answers.
Understandably so. A lot of questions, a lot of pain. Maria Villarreal, our thanks to you. And joining us now is the grandmother of one of the victims, Rosa Maria Ramirez. We thank you so much for joining us during what we can only imagine is a really excruciating time. You lost your 10-year-old granddaughter, Alethea. Tell us about how you learned about her passing yesterday.
Yesterday, I found out by my sister. She's like, there's been a shooting in Uvalde in one of the schools. She mistakenly heard the name of the school. She said Ross, and I was like, I don't think there's a Ross in Uvalde. Maybe it's the wrong. They were saying the wrong town, and then she called me again. She's like, no. Call and see, call Ryan, which is my son. Call Ryan and see if she's okay, if your Alethea's okay. And I called Ryan and she says, no, Mom, everything's okay. She's at the Civic Center. They took all the kids to the Civic Center and believing that she was there.
Why did he think that?
Because they would tell them that all kids were at the Civic Center. And first it was like there was only 1 child deceased. And then all of a sudden it jumped from 1 child to 18. And where we started getting worried, and I came over here because I'm from Delhi. I came over here to help him, to see if I could help him go look for her or what. But in the meantime that I was driving over here, I was calling hospitals, and nobody had her. Nobody had her because the reason that I was calling is because he had already came to the Civic Center, and they told her she wasn't there. She said, so if she's not there, where is she? They wouldn't tell us that she was. All this time, they had her little body right there, in there, all those little kids in there. They didn't let us know till midnight that she was there, that she was one of the victims. It was very, very hard.
Understandably so. How are you holding up now? What's keeping you going?
My other grandkids and my son and my daughter-in-law. Right now, it's what I'm being strong for them. Right now, I'm their voice because they're not able to talk right now.
Yeah, understandably so.
And I'm also here for Alethea. She needs to be heard, not just her, like I said, all the other kids.
How would you describe Alethea for people who never had the chance to meet her?
Oh my God, she was a very talented little girl. She loved to draw. She was real sweet. Never getting into trouble. Like I said, she likes to draw. She was drawing. She was drawing to be able to put her drawing in the Google. She was trying to win the Google art.
Do you remember the last time you saw her?
Mother's Day.
Mother's Day.
They showered me with gifts.
What would you like to say to lawmakers who are trying to figure out now how they should react?
Well, actually, the lawmakers should enforce the gun, how they are able to get the guns. How can they let an 18-year-old buy guns, especially those guns that he had? Wouldn't they have any questions? Why would he buy those guns? Why didn't they investigate more his background or anything on him?
Well, Rosa, we thank you so much for your time and speaking out in the spirit on behalf of 10-year-old Alithia, and our condolences and prayers to you and your family.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next to the troubling details surfacing about the 18-year-old gunman from his grandfather, classmates, and co-workers. Also, we're learning what he allegedly posted on social media. Were there warning signs that were missed? Our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, is on the ground with us here in Uvalde.
Tonight, investigators say the suspected Texas elementary school shooter bought those two AR-style rifles on 2 separate days. The first one on May 17th, just a day after his 18th birthday, and the other 3 days later on May 20th. Both rifles purchased just days before the rampage at Oasis Outback, a local sporting goods store. Authorities say the 18-year-old suspect legally purchased those ARs without a license, as well as multiple 30-bullet magazines and at least 375 rounds. The sale of large-capacity magazines and bullets is not regulated in Texas. Earlier, officials said the gunman was wearing body armor, but now correcting themselves, saying it was tactical gear, a vest designed to carry ammunition, but not protective plates or fabric. His grandfather telling me he knew nothing about the weapons.
I didn't know he had weapons or nothing or this or that there. If I would have known, I would have reported him.
You would have reported your own grandson?
Yes, because I'm against all that.
Tonight, Texas Governor Greg Abbott saying the suspect had no known mental health history, insisting that law enforcement had no warnings.
There was no meaningful forewarning of this crime.
Tonight, investigators are combing through the suspect's social media history, where he allegedly posted videos of himself abusing animals, as well as photos of guns. His classmate Nathan Romo telling me the suspect had stalked him, even threatened to kill him after he ended their friendship.
In the back of your head, did you think, well, if there was anybody at school who would have done that, it's this kid?
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
So there were warning signs?
A little bit.
And Matt Gutman joins us now. We understand that there are so many questions, obviously, but hundreds of hours of work still ahead.
Days and hours left to do. Investigators haven't even pieced together what happened. They don't have an exact timeline of when the shooter went in, how long he spent in those classrooms. They haven't finished interviewing the hundreds of neighbors, friends, classmates, peers, family members. That is going to take a tremendous amount of time. And in the meantime, Lindsay, there are a lot of unanswered questions. Was this planned? When was it planned? Who knew about the weapons? How did he get this kind of proficiency that he seemed to have had inside that elementary school? And who knew about those weapons and might have been able to stop it?
His grandfather said he has no idea. Had no idea about the plan, no idea about the guns.
He said the kid kept to himself. He had a room. He had certain things in duffel bags. The grandfather said he did not pry and didn't know. You know, he's a felon, so he's prohibited by law from living in a household with a firearm. So he said, I would have turned him in if I had known. We just didn't know. What seems to have happened here, there are so many missed red flags and signals, is that nobody reached out to somebody who clearly appeared to be in crisis. Nobody asked him if he needed help or how to receive help. And people seem to just miss things that were blaring.
Matt Gutman, our thanks to you as always. The mass shooting here has certainly reignited the heated debate on what the nation can do to prevent gun violence and what action Washington can take on tougher laws to reduce the carnage. But what will anything change on Capitol Hill? ABC's congressional correspondent Rachel Scott.
Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott insisting today that guns were not the problem in the mass shooting that killed 19 children and 2 teachers.
I asked the sheriff and others an open-ended question: what is the problem here? And they were straightforward and emphatic. They said, we have a problem with mental health illness in this community.
But interrupting Abbott's press conference, former Democratic Congressman Beto O'Rourke, who's running for governor himself.
You are doing nothing. No, you're offering us nothing. You said this is not predictable. This is totally predictable when you choose not to do anything. Sir, you are out.
O'Rourke escorted out.
This is on you until you choose to do something different. This will continue to happen.
In Washington, Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut, where 26 people, including 20 children, were gunned down at Sandy Hook Elementary School, challenging his Republican colleagues to act.
What are we doing? Why are you here? If not to solve a problem as existential as this.
Polls show the American people want change. 56% support an assault weapons ban. 86% support a red flag law, allowing authorities to temporarily take guns away from people determined to be dangerous. And 89% support background checks. Still, for most Republicans on Capitol Hill, those issues are non-starters.
The majority of Americans support expanded background checks. Why not support it?
Unfortunately, what some people do is immediately want to take people's Second Amendment rights away, and I'm not willing to do that.
Many Republicans didn't want to talk about the issue at all.
Do you support expanded background checks? The majority of Americans support it. Do you support it? The majority of Americans support background checks. Do you support it?
Democrat Joe Manchin and Republican Pat Toomey have proposed a bill to expand background checks, including for sales online and at gun shows. But it needs 60 votes to pass, unless Senate Democrats change the rules to pass it with a simple majority. Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona won't do that.
Senator Sinema, do you support changing the Senate rules in order to pass gun control legislation? 19 children are dead.
Thanks so much.
Can you give us a comment about it?
Your question there met by silence. Rachel Scott joins us now from Capitol Hill. Rachel, there's been some activity on Capitol Hill today as Democrats try to make some headway on this issue. What might happen in the coming weeks?
Yes, Lindsay, a flurry of activity here on Capitol Hill. I would say that there's a real sense of urgency here, especially from Democrats and a handful of Republicans who really want to try and find a path forward. But again, the math on this just has not changed. 60 votes, that is what is needed to pass legislation in the Senate under this Congress. And right now you need 10 Republicans to get on board, and Democrats still do just not have that support. Lindsay?
Numbers just aren't there. Rachel Scott, our thanks to you as always. Now by Texas Senator. We're joined now by Texas Senator Roland Gutierrez. He represents Uvalde. Senator, as you know, the shooter had just purchased these 2 rifles, the ammunition, right at his 18th birthday. What do we do to try to curb this?
Well, Lindsay, that's what I've been talking about all day long. I mean, at the end of the day, how an 18-year-old was able to get 2 guns in a span of 3 days over the counter legally, that happens, unfortunately, here in Texas. We can pass laws within the state legislature to have restrictions on that kind of activity, but the Republican-controlled legislature has not allowed that session after session. It's my hope that this kind of disaster, this kind of tragedy, sheds some light on this.
And we saw the gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke really take on the current governor, Abbott, here in Texas today. When the legislature resumes, what kind of action will you try to take?
So in the past, I filed red flag bills. You know, this kind of activity that happened here with this young man, that might have changed things. That bill didn't see the light of day because the Republican-controlled Congress didn't allow that to come up on the floor. We're going to continue to file those bills, but we need people to go out and vote. We need people to demand change. I'm not trying to take anybody's guns away. This is Texas, and I understand this. My district is a very rural district, lots of ranchers, lots of hunters. I get that. I'm a hunter myself. but I don't hunt with an AR-15. How we let young men have access to this type of militarized weaponry is beyond me. Something has got to change.
And many people, as you've heard, they're saying, look, he was 18, not old enough to buy a beer, but old enough to buy an assault rifle. Is that something that you might consider changing the age?
Absolutely. Changing the age, red flag laws, waiting periods. Those are all things that Greg Abbott can put on his agenda if he wanted to. Instead, time and tragedy after tragedy, he comes back and says the same thing. Mental illness, evil. Yeah, we get all that. We understand that. Number one, do more on the mental illness side in Texas. We're down at the bottom 10. And number two, we can control the kind of disasters that happen, these types of tragedies, when young men don't have access to militarized weaponry. That needs to happen now.
What do you say to those who argue in times like this is when we need guns so that we can protect ourselves, self-defense?
So this morning I sent my little girls off to school. I hugged them. I didn't want to let them go.
Right.
We just heard from Ms. Ramirez. I'd tell those people, put yourself in these 19 family shoes. Kiss your baby to school tomorrow. Don't expect to see him back. Then ask yourself what kind of change needs to happen.
Aside from gun control, what else can be done in order to try to stop these mass shootings?
Listen, I mean, that's it. I mean, it's certainly mental health, for sure. In 2019, we passed school hardening legislation that the Republicans were so proud of. That young man walked through the back door of this school unfettered. Without a problem, he was able to access and maim these poor children. There is only one thing that can be done that would guarantee that this doesn't happen again. That's an assault weapons ban at the federal level, and at the state level, certain restrictions that would eliminate the accessibility of militarized weapons that are used in the field of battle. I'm not talking about your .270 that you go hunt with. We're talking about weapons that are used in the field of battle. We need to do that.
This is your community. You've been talking to people, including Ms. Ramirez. How do you feel people are coping up and what are you saying to them?
We're here to help. You know, I'm trying to bring as many resources that we can from the state agencies into Uvalde. What we learned from Sutherland Springs, 40 miles from my home, is that this is just an ongoing process. We still have bereavement counselors in Sutherland Springs 2 years after that incident. This is not something that's going to end for this community when all the cameras leave. 19 beautiful little babies are gone. 2 wonderful teachers. When are we going to start doing something real and demanding real change? When is the Republican-controlled Congress in Texas going to do something?
All right, Senator, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Today, President Biden urged Congress to pass new gun laws, pushing Capitol Hill to, quote, turn pain into action. Now let's bring in ABC News' Chief White House correspondent Cecilia Vega. Cecilia, what else did the president say to emphasize his remarks as far as what he can get done?
Well, Lindsay, that is the thing. The big question hanging over this White House right now is what can President Biden actually do without Congress? And what he's doing has to do with Congress. He is pushing for what he is calling common sense gun reform. He says that the Second Amendment is not absolute. He also wants the Senate to confirm his nominee for the ATF director. That agency that enforces gun laws and regulates licensing in this country hasn't had a permanent director in 7 years. So the question facing this White House tonight, Lindsay, is how much political capital are they willing to spend fighting this fight over gun control? And one last note, Lindsay, we also learned today from President Biden that he and the First Lady will be traveling there to Texas in the coming days, they say, to meet with families.
A similar trip that they made just 1 week ago to Buffalo. Cecilia Vega, our thanks to you. The school shooting stopped millions of Americans in their tracks. One of them is NBA coach Steve Kerr, whose dad was assassinated by terrorists in Beirut. His Golden State Warriors in Dallas for a playoff game with the Mavericks when the shooting took place. His impassioned words before the game were not about basketball.
We're going to start the same way tonight. Any basketball questions don't matter. Since we left shoot-around, 14 children were killed 400 miles from here. And a teacher. And in the last 10 days, we've had elderly black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California. And now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of the, I'm sorry. I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough. And 50 senators in Washington are going to hold us hostage. Do you realize that 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check? 90% of us, we are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
And when we come back, Johnny Depp's ex-wife, or ex-girlfriend, Kate Moss, takes a stand in the Depp Heard trial. What she had to say in Depp's defense. There's some relief in sight in the baby formula shortage as more shipments arrive, and the FDA admits it failed to act quickly on a whistleblower's complaint. And 10 years after the horror at Sandy Hook Elementary School, we speak to the daughter of the principal who lost her life in Newtown. Her message to the community in Uvalde when we come back.
With so much at stake, so much on the line, more Americans turn here than any place else. ABC News World News Tonight with David Muir, America's #1 most watched newscast, now streaming on ABC News Live.
This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
in Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
Here at the White House.
Destructive Cat 4 storm.
You're along I-5.
Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go. We made it.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Admit it, these days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
Take America's #1 news with you anywhere you go, anytime, free. Download the ABC News app now. Breaking news, exclusives, 24/7. There for you with one touch. The ABC News app. Download it now. America's #1 news, ABC News. Most watched, most trusted, and streaming live to you anytime, anywhere, and free. This is ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news, free to you 24/7. Watch America's #1 news whenever you want it, wherever you are, anytime. ABC News Live, streaming live and free on all platforms.
These tragedies, these communities picking up the pieces, these news reports, time and again, the narrative is the same, but what changes are the devastated families. And I want to bring in someone who experienced this terrible reality nearly 10 years ago. Erica Lafferty is the daughter of Don Hochsprung, the principal of Sandy Hook Elementary, who was murdered, and Robbie Parker, whose daughter was also murdered in Sandy Hook. We thank you both so much for being here. I want to start off by asking what the roller coaster of emotions you've experienced is like since yesterday. Erica, start with you.
It was eerily similar how I found out. I got a breaking news alert on my computer when I was working. I was sitting on my couch just as I was the Friday morning in December back in 2012. And the flood of terror and emotion just came as you said, it was a roller coaster. Just all came flooding right back in. It brought me right back to those horrible hours spent in the Sandy Hook firehouse. And my heart was just bleeding for the families in Texas, knowing what they were coming up to.
And Robbie, same question to you.
Yeah, for me, I just, it was different this time for me. I was at my daughter's school, my middle daughter's school. I was getting ready to pick her up, and I started getting text messages from people that were hearing the news before I had heard it. And just a really depressed, sinking feeling in my chest. And that was followed with just a lot of rage and a lot of anger and just a deep sadness, because I know that there's other families now that are experiencing the same thing that Erica's family and my family experienced. And that's just a pain you can't describe. And to know that other people are feeling that it's hard to swallow.
Erica, often people will say it's too soon to debate how we can tackle this problem. You had tweeted talking about life-saving measures from the PSA is not politicizing. It's never, ever too soon. It is absolutely too expletive late. Almost a full decade after burying your mom, and people are still saying it's too soon. However, Sandy Hook families have made some strides when it comes to tackling gun manufacturers. But do these incidents make you feel like it's one step forward and then 5 steps back?
100%, yes. We have made huge strides in the states. There have been background check bills and extreme risk protection orders, bills like that passed. But nothing has been done on the federal level. I was listening in earlier, and as it was said earlier, we are literally being held hostage by a Congress, by a federal government that refuses to act and refuses to do anything that will make any kind of real change. Guns don't abide by state lines, and that's something that people really need to take a real hard look at. But to say that nothing was done really seems unfair to the people who have been in this fight for so long. But there is so much more to be done. And unfortunately, the club that we've joined just grows by the masses every single day.
And Robbie, the NRA of today certainly is not the same NRA that you battled after your terrible loss. But why do they still feel so relevant when it comes to these issues?
I can't really speak to the fight that Eric has been fighting and fighting against the NRA. After Sandy Hook, that wasn't something that I felt like I wanted to participate in. I stayed really quiet. I tried to protect my 2 younger daughters, and I focused on what it was that my family needed at the time. And I felt like what my family needed at the time was their dad. And we needed to focus on our grief and our healing. And now that I have some years behind me and I have some perspective, and I'm thinking about the families there in Texas and what they're going through, this isn't a fight that they need to be fighting. And Erica and we have that perspective, and we have the energy now. We've worked on our grief, and we can take the fight to them, and we can do what it is that we need to do. I think so many times people deflect because this is really tragic and it's really hard to swallow, and they ask the wrong questions. They want to waste time asking, why does this happen, or why does that happen? When really the question that we need to be asking is, what can I do? What is it that I can do to make sure that these things don't happen anymore?
And Robbie, you just said that you have already kind of worked through your grief to some extent, although I'm sure it never quite goes all the way away. For those families, those parents who it's still so fresh, 24 hours old at this point, what would you say to them?
I say that their focus needs to be on their healing. This is something that you hear it from everybody, and they say, I can't imagine what it is that these families are going through, but I can imagine what it is they're going through. And I can't speak specifically for them, but what I can say is that this is time that's very important. They need to be surrounded by people who genuinely love them, who have a support system, and who are going to be able to buoy them up. As many thoughts and prayers and condolences might be going towards them, they don't need to hear from us. They need to be supported by their system and their community and their families, and they need this time for their healing. But that doesn't mean that these conversations need to have some moratorium. We can be having those conversations, and we can be doing the things that are appropriate to make sure that more families don't have to join this group.
Erica Lafferty, Robbie Parker, we thank you so much for your time. Still ahead here on Prime, the deadly aftermath from a tornado in Michigan. We'll have the very latest. Johnny Depp returns to the stand, why he's calling Amber Heard's claims ridiculous and false. And we take a look at the profile of some mass shooters by the numbers. But first, our tweet of the day, a call to action from Uvalde, Texas native Matt McConaughey.
The deeper you go into black markets, the darker it gets.
Trafficked, Wednesdays at 9 on National Geographic.
Right now, with so much at stake, Sunday mornings, this is the place. Taking on all the tough questions. Straightforward reporting. No spin, no hype, no bull. Thank you for making ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos the #1 Sunday morning news show versus the competition.
Welcome to This Week.
This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
In Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
Here at the White House.
Destructive Cat 4 storm.
Here along I-5.
Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go.
We made it.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Is that the gun?
That's not the gun.
What is it? I won't ask you again then. Are you a Nazi? The deeper you go into black markets,
You put people to your life at risk.
the darker it gets. Why hasn't anyone come out and spoken?
It's about the money. That's why we do it.
Trafficked, new episodes Wednesdays at 9 on National Geographic.
These days, with so much going on, it's hard to keep up.
While others are recapping yesterday's headlines,
We're bringing you the right now.
This is the busy border crossing. Steel barricades, another strike.
The Right Now look at the day ahead, how it affects you and your family.
Record high gas prices.
the threat of cyber warfare.
Is peace possible?
World News Now beginning at 2 a.m. Eastern, followed by America This Morning,
America's #1 early morning news.
streaming here on ABC News Live.
Take America's #1 news with you anywhere you go, anytime, free. Download the ABC News app now. Breaking news, exclusives, 24/7. There for you with one touch. The ABC News app. Download it now.
As of today, in a big way, we have inaugurated abcnews.com.
A lot has changed in our world since Peter made that announcement. But what hasn't changed is the commitment to groundbreaking reporting and innovation at abcnews.com. And here's to everything ahead.
Welcome back, everyone. One question that we keep hearing here is why? Why would someone gun down innocent students and teachers? And why didn't anyone notice warning signs and stop him before it was too late? So we thought we'd take a look at some of the data behind the profiles of mass shooters by the numbers. 30% of mass shooters are suicidal before their attacks, and more commit suicide during their attacks. Among school-age shooters, 92% are suicidal, according to a Justice Department study of trends among mass shooters. Psychological trauma was common in all mass shooters. 80% were considered in crisis when they committed their crimes. Another trend, 48% of mass shooters leak their plans in advance of their actions, and about 23% leave behind manifestos or other legacy messages. 180 pages, that's the length of the document left behind by the shooter in Buffalo, an 18-year-old who had revealed his plans online and in internet chat rooms before killing 10 people just last week. 18 years old, the same age as yesterday's shooter who had shown off his arsenal and foreshadowed his plans on social media. He was killed by law enforcement after murdering 21 people. A history of trauma and a tendency to share plans to documented trends that may help in the search for answers. And we still have lots to get to here on Prime tonight. We look at how Texas has loosened gun laws in recent years, even after a string of mass shootings. The new developments in that key razor-thin Senate race in Pennsylvania 1 week after voting. The new bombshells at the Johnny Depp-Amber Heard trial. Depp testifying once again today. First, a look at our top trending stories on abcnews.com.
at stake in our world right now, we wanted to thank you for your trust and for making ABC News America's #1 news.
And thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues, The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
National parks are incredibly safe places, but crime will happen.
Hey, my wife had fallen. She's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident.
There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, What You Need to Know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
it's all about you.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? Figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart that he did this.
It's the time of suspicion. The ending's really tough.
You don't know whether truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it.
America's #1 news, ABC News. Most watched, most trusted, and streaming live to you anytime, anywhere, and free. This is ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news, free to you 24/7. Watch America's #1 news whenever you want it, wherever you are, anytime. ABC News Live, streaming live and free on all platforms.
Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, now the epicenter of grief and heartbreak after authorities say the alleged gunman, an 18-year-old armed with an AR-15 style weapon, stormed inside of a classroom, barricaded himself inside, and opened fire on students and teachers. Authorities say Salvador Ramos had just turned 18 on May 16th. Days later, he bought 2 AR-15 style rifles, his grandfather telling ABC's Matt Gutman he had no idea the weapons had been purchased and didn't know what Ramos had planned. President Biden described as carnage in that school. Police say began with the gunman allegedly shooting his own grandmother in the forehead. She did survive, but authorities say he stole her truck from the home, crashed it outside of Robb Elementary, emerged from his car wearing body armor, and then shot a school police officer who responded. Days leading up to the attack, authorities say the gunman reportedly sent pictures and videos of guns to users on various social media platforms. Several users also telling ABC News the suspect had been abusing animals and showing pictures of that abuse to others on social media.
With some relief for parents of infants, another plane full of baby formula arrived from Europe today in the U.S. The 108,000-pound shipment from Germany landed at Dulles Airport earlier today. It will be transported to a Nestle distribution center near Allentown, Pennsylvania. It will then go to hospitals, doctor offices, public assistance, and retail stores. Abbott will reopen its baby formula plant in Michigan on June 4th. The company says the first clean batches of baby formula will be ready for shipment about 4 weeks from now.
This is the FDA's Deputy Commissioner for Food Policy and Response, Frank Giannis, said he did not learn about the infant formula whistleblower report until roughly 4 months after it had landed in the agency's mailroom.
There's going to be a recount in Pennsylvania's Republican Senate primary. The top vote getter is Dr. Mehmet Oz, backed by former President Trump, and businessman Dave McCormick. The process could begin as soon as Friday.
A victory for incumbent Governor Kemp in Georgia.
Kemp beat Trump's pick, former Senator David Perdue, in a landslide, setting up a blockbuster general election rematch against Stacey Abrams, who narrowly lost to Kemp in 2018. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger defeated Congressman Jody Hice. And in the Republican Senate primary, Heisman Trophy winner and controversial candidate Herschel Walker easily won his ticket to represent the GOP against sitting Senator Raphael Warnock.
Actor Johnny Depp took the stand for a second time in his libel suit against his ex-wife Amber Heard, and this time he called her claims of physical and sexual abuse insane. Depp testified again as a rebuttal witness. He told jurors he thought the allegations Heard made on the witness stand were, quoting now, ridiculous, humiliating, ludicrous, painful, savage, unbelievably brutal, cruel, and all false.
I'm in total shock that this is happening to me.
Earlier in the day, Depp's ex-girlfriend, supermodel Kate Moss, testified virtually.
And Johnny left the room before I did, and there had been a rainstorm. And as I left the room, I slid down the stairs.
Did Mr. Depp push you in any way down the stairs?
No.
Heard testified she heard a rumor Depp pushed Moss down the stairs when they dated in the 1990s. Heard's attorney declined to cross-examine Moss.
Debris from the deadly tornado that killed at least 2 people and injured more than 40 in Michigan shows the extent of the damage. The storm knocked out electricity and flattened parts of the northern Michigan community where that extreme weather is rare. This tour of the damage, coming as severe weather and high winds are expected to make it to the East Coast by the end of the week.
We're here in Uvalde, Texas, just the latest community to grapple with the wrenching aftermath of a mass shooting in this state, coming on the heels of the 2019 El Paso Walmart shooting and a church shooting in Sutherland Springs, Texas in 2017. But despite those mass casualty events, Texas has actually loosened gun laws in recent years. So now let's bring in ABC's Devin Dwyer for more on this. Devin, yesterday's shooting has once again revived the debate on gun control measures and whether more restrictions should be in place. But Texas has actually gone the other direction. Tell us what they've done.
Yeah, Lindsay, Texas Republicans who control state government, as you know, have not only resisted new gun safety measures after these mass shootings, but they've repeatedly loosened gun restrictions to carry a weapon across the state. It's easier to buy and carry a weapon in Texas than ever before. In fact, just last year, the legislature passed an open carry law eliminating a training and permitting requirement to carry a loaded handgun around the state. They've resisted efforts to expand background checks, resisted efforts to pass red flag laws. And this, Lindsay, despite the fact that Texas is home to 4 of the 10 deadliest mass shootings in U.S. history, 3 of them happening in just the last 5 years alone. Lindsay, today, Governor Greg Abbott made clear he thinks guns are not the problem. Legislatures in the state are going to focus on hardening school security. He said that's where their focus would be. He's already signed 17 laws doing just that, he said. And Abbott said point blank today, Lindsay, that despite what happened today where you are, there is no effort in the state legislature at the state level to improve gun restrictions in that state.
But some other states are taking action. What kind of movement have we seen in recent years at the state level?
Yeah, there has been a different approach, even by some red states in the wake of mass shootings. I mean, after the 2018 Parkland High School shooting, Florida raised the age limit requirement to purchase a gun from 18 to 21. They've enacted a red flag law in Florida. It's actually, I checked, been used 5,800 times since 2018. In California, where a 19-year-old used a semi-automatic rifle to shoot up a synagogue in San Diego, the lawmakers there tightened the purchase requirement, raising the age to 21 for individuals to buy that kind of weapon. The curveball in these efforts, Lindsay, is going to be the courts. And in fact, in a federal appeals court just this month struck down that California age limit requirement, said it violated the Second Amendment. And there's an even bigger gun rights decision on the horizon from the U.S. Supreme Court, one that could significantly roll back gun permitting requirements in a quarter of the country. The Supreme Court in the next few weeks is set to decide whether there's a fundamental right to carry a gun in public for self-defense. It's going to be a significant decision, Lindsay. Despite all of these mass shootings that we've been seeing, the justice is poised to make clear a lot of experts think that there is such a right and that more guns could be on the streets in those states. Lindsay.
It'll be interesting to see the result there. Devin Dwyer, thanks to you.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Finally tonight, the unbearable pain. We remember the lives lost here in Uvalde as a nation tries to chart a course toward change after yet another school shooting. So many tonight are asking, when will we as a country collectively say enough? The cries echo from every corner of the country.
As this slaughter increases, as our kids run for their lives, we do nothing.
Children murdered at school. When are we going to do something?
Enough, they say. It's gotta stop, they say. Words that ring hollow as more bullets ring out. Columbine, Sandy Hook, Parkland, now Uvalde. A town of 16,000 now thrown into a national battle over gun control, a battle that by all accounts America is losing. And the lives of innocent Americans left in the crosshairs.
It's real and it's everlasting, not just for the families who experience incredible loss, but for the whole community every single time, everywhere across our country.
These moments of heart-wrenching desperation, of parents being consoled in a schoolyard, now an all too common sight. 19 innocent children woke up Tuesday morning never to return home. 2 faculty members murdered trying to protect those students. The grim scenes in Texas ripping open the painful scars from these increasingly regular occurrences.
I know what the families had to endure sitting in a room, waiting to hear, and their child's laying in a school, on a floor. It's heartbreaking, just heartbreaking.
I don't need to worry about losing my kid, because I already lost it. But you do. It's not about one person or your kids in particular. It's about everyone in America.
But while the powers in Washington feud over guns and mental health, the death toll rises, the names and faces mount.
I just don't understand how people could sell that type of a gun to a kid, to an 18-year-old.
And now another community grieves together outside a growing memorial for the 21 most recent victims, as all here and beyond hold their memories close. Before we go tonight, our image of the day. Members of law enforcement and the Uvalde community bring flowers to a growing memorial in tribute to those students and teachers who lost their lives here at Robb Elementary. 21 lives lost. And for what? That is our show for this hour. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us. Coming up in the next hour, we're staying on top of a few things. The teachers gathered in Washington, D.C., reacting to the horror here in Uvalde. And the vigil tonight there as we continue our coverage from this small Texas community.
America's #1 news, ABC News. Most watched, most trusted, and streaming live to you anytime, anywhere, and free. This is ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Free to you 24/7. Watch America's #1 news whenever you want it, wherever you are, anytime. ABC News Live, streaming live and free on all platforms. More Americans choose ABC News, America's #1 news source. Take America's #1 news with you, anywhere you go, anytime, free. Download the ABC News app now. Breaking news, exclusives, 24/7. There for you with one touch. The ABC News app. Download it now.
The deeper you go into black markets, the darker it gets.
Traffic, Wednesdays at 9 on National Geographic.
He thought he was God.
He's now one of the most vilified men in the world. He is the everyman. Zelensky is the Tom Hanks of Ukraine.
The fact that a little nice Jewish boy is 5'7" is showing up this KGB agent in the Kremlin.
What do you say to Americans who see Russia and you not only as a rival, but an unfriendly adversary?
Two men at war.
Which Vladimir will take over. The world is not going to be the same.
So what's good to read this summer? Well, Kate and I have decided to jump in and help you.
And we're talking with Oprah, John Irving, and so many popular authors and influencers.
So we want you to join us. Myself, Charlie Gibson, and my daughter, Kate Gibson.
Oh, hey, that's me.
That is you. For the new podcast series, it is called The Bookcase with Kate and Charlie.
We will make sure you love what you read.
Listen anywhere and anytime. The Bookcase Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We're monitoring several developments here at ABC News at this hour. President Biden marked the second anniversary of the death of George Floyd by signing an executive order on police reform. Alongside the president were police officials and George Floyd's relatives, including his daughter, Gianna. The order creates a national registry of officers who have been fired for misconduct, orders federal agencies to revise their use of force policies, and offers funding to state and local forces to restrict no-knock warrants and chokeholds. The head of the Food and Drug Administration faced bipartisan fury from House lawmakers Wednesday over months of delays investigating problems at the nation's largest baby formula plant that prompted an ongoing shortage. The FDA had admitted that the agency's response was, quote, too slow, and there were decisions that were suboptimal along the way. Florida would require statewide recertification of condominiums over 3 stories tall under a bill sent to Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. The legislation is in direct response to the Surfside building collapse that killed 98 people. Condominium associations must also have sufficient reserves to pay for major repairs and also conduct a study of the reserves every decade. Inspection reports to owners would also be required. And if structural repairs are needed, work must begin within a year of the report. And we begin this hour back here in Uvalde, where Tuesday morning, innocent children woke up heading to the school right behind me to learn. Some were fortunate to make it out through windows. Those were the lucky ones. Tonight, we will not forget those who did not make it out, who they were, who they could have been, as a grief-stricken nation looks for answers yet again.
The heartbreak is palpable.
You really don't get over this stuff. You don't get through it. I mean, you just continue to live with it.
These kids will never attend school again. To say the least, Uvalde has been shaken to its core.
At least 19 children and 2 teachers killed, 17 more injured in just the latest horrific school shooting in America. Officials say the rampage began when the suspected shooter, identified as 18-year-old Salvador Rolando Ramos, shot his grandmother in their home. She called police as her grandson left and headed to Robb Elementary School. The suspect crashed his car outside the school, where he pulled out an AR-15 and began firing at law enforcement.
We need to respond to South Grove and Mill Street to establish a perimeter.
At 11:32 a.m. Central Time, he then abandoned his car and entered the school. Within seconds, he opened fire inside a 4th grade classroom.
To all EMS units, stand by. Do not attempt to get closer. We got shots fired.
When he sees the students and our teacher, that's when he starts shooting at the window and the wall right there. So he starts shooting it all up.
4th grader Jordan Legis was inside a classroom he says was being shot at.
all kinds of smoke is like in the room as we're in there, and so we all get kind of by the door. We all get down, and then a few seconds later, I guess he got inside somehow, and then he starts shooting at our door.
Police who arrived at the scene exchanged gunfire with the shooter. A Border Patrol officer then fired the fatal shot that killed him. Jordan was able to make it out safely through a window, part of a group of students who rushed to a nearby funeral home to take shelter.
When we ran to the funeral home, that's when I realized that he could have shot and killed, which he did, but he that could have been me. I could have got shot too. But then that's when I finally realized, that's when I started crying when we were inside the funeral home.
For parents, an excruciating waiting game. Painstaking hours filled with anguish. Mothers and fathers rushing to the school, overcome with emotion as they hold each other back, desperate for answers, waiting to learn the fate of their children. Similar scenes at the Reunification Center. Parents asked to give DNA samples to help authorities try to identify their children. 19 innocent children woke up Tuesday morning with their whole lives ahead of them, all taken away in seconds.
My heart was broken today. We're a small community, and we'll need your prayers to get us through this.
Tonight, our first look at the lives lost, their faces a searing reminder of the extent of the heartbreak. Javier James Lopez, Amiri Jo Garza, her father tells ABC News, please don't take a second for granted. Hug your family. Tell them you love them. Rogelio Torres, cousins Jase Luvanos and Jayla Salguero. The family calls them baby angels and full of life. Eliana Cruz Torres, cousins Annabelle Rodriguez and Jackie Cazares, and the brave, heroic teachers who died trying to protect their little ones. Eva Mireles and her co-teacher, Irma Garcia. The pair had known each other since 8th grade. Garcia was about to celebrate her 25th wedding anniversary. Eva is being praised as a selfless, dedicated public servant.
With Eva, it was just beyond. It was more than anybody else has ever poured into my child. And I've just never seen anyone quite so dedicated. This is not normal. And communities shouldn't have to deal with this, and children in school should not have to.
Today, as this community and our entire nation struggle with the appropriate response, so many are now calling on, demanding those in power to do more. An extraordinary scene at this news conference today with state officials where candidate for governor Beto O'Rourke confronts Texas Governor Greg Abbott, saying he had the power to prevent this tragedy.
Sir, you are out of line. Please leave this auditorium.
Beto then taking his message outside.
The people of Texas are with us. The majority of the people of Texas are with us, but we've got to stand up to this. We could have stopped this if we had stood up after Santa Fe High School, if we had stood up after El Paso. We are going to stop the next one. We're standing up right here in Uvalde, Texas, right now.
Tonight, along with this memorial that's growing in Uvalde, so too is outrage. So many lives cut short, this entire community in mourning today. Amber Ibarra, a relative of a teacher who was killed, Eva Mireles, kind enough to join us today. And thank you. I'm so sorry that we're meeting under these circumstances. Just any kind of memory for those who never had the opportunity to meet Eva, how you'd describe her.
I will say that forever, and thank you for asking that question, because to me the most important thing is that, if you're hearing this from across the country, these are people with children who have lives with families. And if I could describe her in any way, I just will forever say she was just vivacious. She was an adventurer. She was a CrossFitter. She loved what she did in the school system. She was an amazing mom, just a very admirable woman.
And so there are reports that she died actually attempting to keep her students alive. I imagine based on the person you know her to be, that comes as no surprise.
It comes at absolutely no surprise. And to be that selfless when you know you have a daughter that you absolutely love to the core of your being, it's just a testament to how amazing of a person she is. She's an absolute hero in my eyes, and I'm proud to have even been part of her life in the times and moments I was able to have with her.
And you just mentioned her daughter. Her daughter did post on social media, "Mom, I have no words to describe how I feel right now, tomorrow, and for the rest of my life. I keep telling myself that this isn't real. I just want to hear your voice." Have you gotten a chance to talk to the immediate family?
I have not. My aunt, who I'm so close to, who, you know, Addie and everyone, they're the immediate family, and my cousins. I've not been able to speak with them yet, and I'm working to respect their privacy. And the intention, even to be here today, is to honor her name and to hopefully speak up so that, you know, people know how wonderful of a person she was. And I did read that post, and it's so heartfelt. You know, she was so close to her mom. Believe in there, she even calls her my twin, you know? And I definitely feel that. It was a special bond between them.
And you went to Robb Elementary School yourself. Give us a sense of the community.
I mean, never in a million years could I have imagined what took place yesterday. The community is tight-knit. I thankfully had, you know, both sides of my parents here, my family. I mean, my mom went to the same elementary school, and I remember being able to both walk and ride my bike to school and with my parents, and it was just a quick walk because my home's down the street. I was fortunate enough to have that security, to feel safe, and it breaks my heart knowing that my little cousins that attend this school, how are my cousins going to explain to their kids what happened, and how will they ever find that safety again? It definitely felt safe when I attended.
Amber, again, our hearts go out to you. Certainly you and your family remain in our prayers. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
A look now at the memorial happening right now here in Uvalde for the lives lost, the love shared by everyone here, from the first responders who risked their lives to neighbors supporting each other over the past day. Certainly nothing has been enough to help this community understand why such a catastrophe would happen. And as our Maria Villarreal reports, they want answers, they need them, they're demanding them.
Tonight, as the tight-knit town of Uvalde mourns and grieves, we're learning that for many of the responding officers, this was personal. Many had their own children in harm's way. The sheriff's department.
One deputy sheriff lost a daughter in that school.
And Border Patrol.
We had one agent that lost his granddaughter. We had others that lost extended family.
Border Patrol Sector Chief Jason Owens telling me more than 80 agents responded to the scene.
They put themselves between this crazy person and these innocent children. Whether they were pulling the children to safety from windows, whether they were clearing rooms, whether they were actively engaging that suspect, each and every person played their role, and they did it with all of their heart.
Families taken to the local civic center, giving samples of their DNA, waiting for hours for officials to confirm whether or not their child had died. A long and painful process in a small town where there's less than 10 physicians available to deal with this kind of tragedy.
Our thanks to Maria for that. And this devastating loss of life is, of course, forcing parents to have some tough conversations with their children. We're joined now by Dr. Amanda Wedegro-Romine. She's a licensed psychologist with training in PTSD and trauma, who came to Uvalde to help. Doctor, thank you so much for coming. What are you talking to the community about right off the bat?
Yeah. So today at the Civic Center, I saw people who haven't slept all night, people who were able to sleep but are having nightmares about the shooting. I talked to people who are really angry. I talked to people who are numb.
And what kinds of steps or techniques do you try to talk them through?
You know, it's tough right now as a mental health professional in the midst of a crisis like this because there is so much shock still. In the coming weeks and months, that's when the real work will start. That's when we'll meet with folks who are requesting therapy, and we'll help them through this. Today, it was just trying to help them process this, giving them a space to talk, you know, just giving them a place to know that there's people here who support them and want to walk this very difficult journey with them.
And what do you say for parents like me who have children who are in elementary school who have heard about this on the news? How do you explain this to children in a way that they're aware but not afraid?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I did talk to parents today who, parents just want to do the best thing for their children. And there is no manual for something like this. And so the questions that I was getting was, do I bring this up with my kids? I talked to several parents who know that their children have friends who have passed away, and they were wondering, should I tell them? How do I tell them? Do I push my kids to talk about this, or do I, take a step back and kind of just let them talk at their own pace? And so that's really, age dependent. But I always tell parents, let your kids take the lead.
And how about children who are teenagers, close in age to the age of the shooter, 18?
Yeah. It's really difficult to make sense of. And so, again, just being open, letting your kids know that you are not just open to talking, but that you can handle what they want to talk about, that you're not going to break under that pressure. That's really important for kids to know, that they can come to their parents and that their parents are going to be able to handle this.
Kind of meet them where they are.
Yes.
And what kinds of short-term as well as long-term effects would you be concerned about, and should parents be looking for?
Yeah, so some of the things that I talked about, nightmares, trouble sleeping, lack of appetite, numbness, so just completely numbing out, anxiety, depression, not doing the things that they used to be really interested and even passionate about doing. Those are all signs that a child, and even an adult, probably needs to get some professional mental health support for this.
All right, Dr. Watergrow-Romine, we thank you so much for your time and for coming out here to the community to try to help.
Thank you.
And now the troubling details surrounding this 18-year-old gunman from his grandfather, classmates, and co-workers. Also, we're learning about what he allegedly posted on social media. Warning signs missed. Our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, is on the ground with us here in Uvalde.
Tonight, investigators say the suspected Texas elementary school shooter bought those two AR-style rifles on 2 separate days. The first one on May 17th, just a day after his 18th birthday, and the other 3 days later on May 20th. Both rifles purchased just days before the rampage at Oasis Outback, a local sporting goods store. Authorities say the 18-year-old suspect legally purchased those ARs without a license, as well as multiple 30-bullet magazines and at least 375 rounds. The sale of large-capacity magazines and bullets is not regulated in Texas. Earlier, officials said the gunman was wearing body armor, but now correcting themselves, saying it was tactical gear, a vest designed to carry ammunition, but not protective plates or fabric. His grandfather telling me he knew nothing about the weapons.
I didn't know he had weapons or nothing or this or that there. If I would have known, I would have reported him.
You would have reported your own grandson?
Yes, because I'm against all that.
Tonight, Texas Governor Greg Abbott saying the suspect had no known mental health history, insisting that law enforcement had no warnings.
There was no meaningful forewarning of this crime.
Tonight, investigators are combing through the suspect's social media history, where he allegedly posted videos of himself abusing animals, as well as photos of guns. His classmate Nathan Romo telling me the suspect had stalked him, even threatened to kill him after he ended their friendship.
In the back of your head, did you think, well, if there was anybody at school who would have done that, it's this kid?
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
So there were warning signs?
A little bit.
Perhaps some red flags that were missed. Our thanks to Matt Gutman for that. And now let's bring in former FBI agent and ABC News contributor Brad Garrett. Brad, thanks for joining us. We just heard about those potential missed warning signs from Matt Gutman there, who spoke to the accused shooter's grandfather. Bottom line, does our nation's law enforcement have the right resources to find and monitor people who might be showing concerning signs of violence?
The short answer is no, Lindsay. I mean, think about it. The number of people that say hateful, violent things on the internet, maybe even to classmates, most of those don't end up being mass shooters. However, there's a cumulative effect of mass shooters in what they say, in particular as they get closer to committing the shooting. And this shooter, I think, exactly fits that model. The real issue, of course, is law enforcement didn't know about it. They don't have the capability, obviously, of monitoring literally millions of people on social media. And they have to rely on the community, the folks at the school, the teachers, people this kid knew in school, out of school. People had pieces of information about him. And you have to tell somebody. It becomes a ticklish subject because you get into the First Amendment, obviously. You can say many hateful things, but when they cross a line, you've potentially committed a crime. But that's how we investigate these. And that's also how you help troubled kids that maybe could be on their way to being a mass shooter, but you head them in a different direction. And so that's why threat assessment teams in schools are so vital. But the one problem with this shooter is apparently he wasn't in school at the time this occurred. He had dropped out. So that net of folks that would have seen him day in and day out, possibly noting deterioration, hearing comments from kids about what they're seeing, what he's saying, so forth, could possibly have gotten law enforcement in front of him. But it's certainly not an ideal system. But that's kind of where we are. It's obvious to me we're not going to do a whole lot about guns, in particular in Texas. And so we're going to have to rely on each other to share information with law enforcement.
And there's been a lot of talk about red flag laws, something in effect in 19 states across the country. That law prevents anyone showing signs of being a threat to themselves or others from buying or owning any kind of firearm. This could be a bipartisan avenue. How effective are red flag laws, would you say?
Well, I think they can be. Again, you have to go and get a court order from a judge justifying that this person is a harm to themselves or others. It takes a fair amount of investigation. To your point earlier about is law enforcement really equipped to do a lot of this? Maybe equipped, but don't have the manpower or the time to do it. These can be time-consuming investigations, gathering enough information to convince a judge that this kid is maybe a threat to himself or others. I do think you probably could have done that with him, but who's going to do it, and maybe more importantly, who knew to do it?
And we learned today that the gunman warned about the shooting in private messages on Facebook minutes beforehand and also posted disturbing pictures. How can people on the receiving end of these messages react? What would be the appropriate method for them to respond to this?
Clearly, Lindsay, they needed to have called law enforcement immediately and say, this kid, I know him, he's at this location. You've got a small town, so easy to find him, of course. And they probably could have stopped it. I mean, we had the same problem in Buffalo, different circumstances, but you had a shooter at the Tops Market who live streamed. There were actually people watching him do what he was doing. And I haven't heard one thing that any of them reported. This is about education. It's about convincing people, look, the government's not out to seize your guns. They're not out to do anything but maybe stop violence. And you, the public, you, the parents, really have to help us stop them. That's the real issue.
Brad Garrett, our thanks to you as always for your time and insight. Today in Washington, D.C., some of the nation's top educators gathered to be honored for the Presidential Awards for Excellence in their teaching of mathematics and science. So we spoke with several of them for their reaction to this latest school shooting horror in this country and the renewed debate over arming teachers and other adults in schools.
The first thing that came to mind was anger. When is this going to stop? As teachers, we show up every day. We're caretakers, we're counselors, we're moms, we're dads. We advocate for our children, our families, and it's something that no parent, families, teachers should ever have to deal with.
We need to start acknowledging that we need a lot more support for communities. Guns aren't the answer, My My mother died a violent death. I've had a lot of experience with people who have experienced violence in community, and the answer is not arming me. That's not the answer. The answer is a combination of providing safeguards for people to make sure that they don't have access to violent weapons at times of violence. And we also need social support for the people in our communities to make sure that when they are 18, this isn't how they're going to celebrate their 18th birthday.
One of the superintendents in a very close district allows the teachers to go take special training, and they do concealed carry there. There are lots of people that are proponents for it. There are lots of people that are not. When you're out in the middle of nowhere, sometimes the police can't get to you fast enough to defend you. You've got to be able to do that.
I think if teachers are properly trained to be armed, I think that that is something that should happen. I don't know if that is something that I would do because I wouldn't be comfortable myself, but for those that felt comfortable with that, or maybe a select few on each campus, just like being on an airplane, there's sky marshals, right, and airplanes that are there to protect us. So why not have marshals in our school that are just educators who are ready to take on an enemy? The pain that I know those families are feeling, and being an educator and knowing that students should go to school and be safe, and parents should never have to worry about their student not coming home or their child. And it's just so upsetting that it's happening again.
So upsetting. Still to come. There's news around the world tonight, including Russia's latest offensive in Ukraine and the growing monkeypox outbreak. Stay with us. This is ABC News Live.
The crush of families here in Poland.
At refugee centers
In Putin's Russia.
On the ground in Ukraine.
Close to the front line.
Here at the White House. Destructive Cat 4 storm.
You're along I-5.
Boston is in the bullseye.
Let's go. We made it.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Now streaming on ABC News Live 2020. True crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable. Follow the clues, The Hunt. True crime 2020. Now streaming on ABC News Live. Take America's #1 news with you anywhere you go, anytime, free. Download the ABC News app now. Breaking news, exclusives, 24/7. There for you with one touch. The ABC News app. Download it now.
Welcome back. We're tracking several headlines around the world. In northeastern Ukraine, Russian artillery barrages have knocked out water and electricity and driven residents into underground shelters. Ukrainian officials say they expect Russian forces to attempt to repeat the siege tactics they used in Mariupol. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin today issued an order to fast-track Russian citizenship for residents in parts of southern Ukraine currently being held by Russian forces.
Right now, with so much at stake, Sunday mornings, this is the place. Taking on all the tough questions. Straightforward reporting. No spin, no hype, no bull. Thank you for making ABC's This Week with George Stephanopoulos the #1 Sunday morning news show versus the competition.
Welcome to This Week.
Take America's #1 news with you anywhere you go, anytime, free. Download the ABC News app now. Breaking news, exclusives, 24/7. There for you with one touch. The ABC News app. Download it now.
The most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
Ready for a little GMA-ish promo? Okay, here we go. GMA 7A every day with Robin, George, and Michael. That's how you start the day. Boom!
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
Seems to change just about every day.
what is it that you really want to know, need to know,
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, What You Need to Know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
He thought he was God.
He's now one of the most vilified men in the world. He is the everyman. Zelensky is the Tom Hanks of Ukraine.
The fact that a little nice Jewish boy is 5'7" is showing up this KGB agent in the Kremlin.
What do you say to Americans who see Russia and you not only as a rival, but an unfriendly adversary?
Two men at war.
Which Vladimir will take over. The world is not going to be the same.
Finally tonight, the unbearable pain. We remember the lives lost in Uvalde as the nation tries to chart a course towards change after yet another school shooting. So many tonight asking when, as a country, we will say enough. Our Lindsay Davis has the story.
The cries echo from every corner of the country.
As this slaughter increases, as our kids run for their lives, we do nothing.
Children murdered at school. When are we going to do something?
Enough, they say. It's gotta stop, they say. Words that ring hollow as more bullets ring out. Columbine, Sandy Hook, Parkland, now Uvalde. A town of 16,000 now thrown into a national battle over gun control, a battle that by all accounts America is losing. And the lives of innocent Americans left in the crosshairs.
It's real and it's everlasting, not just for the families who experience incredible loss, but for the whole community every single time, everywhere across our country.
These moments of heart-wrenching desperation, of parents being consoled in a schoolyard, now an all-too-common sight. 19 innocent children woke up Tuesday morning never to return home. 2 faculty members murdered trying to protect those students. The grim scenes in Texas ripping open the painful scars from these increasingly regular occurrences.
I know what the families had to endure sitting in a room, waiting to hear, and their child's laying in a school, on a floor. It's heartbreaking, just heartbreaking.
I don't need to worry about losing my kid, because I already lost it. But you do. It's not about one person or your kids in particular. It's about everyone in America.
But while the powers in Washington feud over guns and mental health, the death toll rises, the names and faces mount.
I just don't understand how people could sell that type of a gun to a kid, to an 18-year-old.
And now another community grieves together outside a growing memorial for the 21 most recent victims, as all here and beyond hold their memories close. You can see some families being consoled right in front of this memorial here today. A young girl walking away from the front sign there at Robb Elementary School. And that is our show for tonight. Be sure to stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. I'm Lindsay Davis, and we leave you tonight as residents gather at the vigil here in Uvalde, Texas, remembering those 21 lives lost. Good night.
America's #1 news, ABC News. Most watched, most trusted, and streaming live to you anytime, anywhere, and free. This is ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news, free to you 24/7. Watch America's #1 news whenever you want it, wherever you are, anytime. ABC News Live, streaming live and free on all platforms.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
He thought he was God.
He's now one of the most vilified men in the world. He is the everyman. Zelensky is the Tom Hanks of Ukraine.
The fact that a little nice Jewish boy is 5'7" is showing up this KGB agent in the Kremlin.
What do you say to Americans who see Russia and you not only as a rival, but an unfriendly adversary?
Two men at war.
Which Vladimir will take over. The world is not going to be the same.
Trevor Reed never thought he'd spend more than a single